The massive alien ships appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's skies were clear. The next, 12 enormous vessels hung in orbit, each one larger than the biggest human aircraft carrier. Commander Frank Winters stared at the radar screens in NASA's control room. His coffee mug slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. No one noticed. All eyes were fixed on the screens showing objects that shouldn't be there. "Get the president on the line," Frank said, his voice surprisingly steady. "And contact every major military force on the planet. We have visitors." Within hours, Earth's government scrambled to form a unified response team. Frank, with his background in both military operations and diplomatic relations, was chosen to lead the first contact party. The aliens had sent a simple message in perfect English. "Prepare to receive representatives of the galactic hegemony." As Frank's shuttle approached the designated meeting point in Earth's orbit, he rehearsed his greeting. Humanity had debated the possibility of alien life for centuries. Now they had their answer. The alien vessel opened like a blooming flower, revealing a docking bay large enough to hold 10 human shuttles. Frank guided their craft inside, where the air pressure and gravity normalized almost instantly. "Remember," Frank told his team of 5 diplomats and scientists, "we represent all of humanity now." The aliens waiting for them looked nothing like the green men of old science fiction. The leader stood nearly 8 feet tall with a body covered in blue-black, chitin that gleamed under the lights. Its 4 arms ended in hands with 7 fingers each. Behind it stood representatives of 7 other species, some reptilian, others with fur, and one that seemed to be made of something like living crystal. "I am High Admiral Zexthar of the Dravari," the leader said without moving what appeared to be its mouth. The words simply appeared in Frank's mind. "First voice of the galactic hegemony in this sector." Frank stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Commander Frank Winters of Earth. We welcome you in peace and friendship." The alien made a clicking sound that the humans' translators didn't catch. The other aliens shifted, and Frank realized they were laughing. "How curious," Zexthar said. "It believes it has a choice in the matter." Frank's smile faltered. "I'm afraid I don't understand." "Your species has been observed for some time," the alien said. "You are classified as a Class 3 civilization, technically capable of limited space travel but lacking proper evolutionary development." Dr. Susan Miller, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward. "What do you mean by proper evolutionary development?" A smaller alien with gray fur and 6 eyes answered. "Your bodies are fragile, no natural armor, weak muscles, limited sensory capacity, no natural defenses. Not to mention," added a reptilian being, "a complete lack of telepathic ability. How do you even function?" Frank felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't the friendly first contact humanity had hoped for. "The hegemony requires new labor forces," Zexthar continued. "Your planet is resource-rich, and your species, while physically underwhelming, shows acceptable intelligence for service roles." "Service roles?" Frank's diplomatic training struggled against his rising anger. "We are not here to serve anyone. Earth is a sovereign planet with—" The blow came without warning. One of Zexthar's forearms moved so fast that Frank didn't see it until he was already on the ground, his jaw throbbing with pain. "Your sovereignty is an illusion we no longer need to maintain," the alien said. "Look outside your vessel." The screens in the shuttle flickered to life, showing Earth from orbit. Alongside the original 12 ships, hundreds more had appeared, surrounding the planet in a web of metal and energy. "One word from me," Zexthar said, "and your major cities become ash. Your choice is simple. Join the hegemony as a protectorate, species, or face extinction." 5 years later, Sam Rogers wiped sweat from his forehead as he finished repairing the waste recycling unit on Orbital 7, a massive hegemony station positioned at Earth's Lagrange point. His hands were stained with grease and his back ached from working in the cramped maintenance tunnel for 6 hours. "Human Rogers, your efficiency rating is down 2.3% from yesterday," the station's AI announced. "Sorry about that," Sam muttered. "I'll work faster tomorrow. See that you do. Report to Nutrition Sector 12 for your meal period, then return for the next maintenance cycle." Sam nodded wearily and gathered his tools. Before joining the hegemony's workforce, he had been a Navy SEAL, one of Earth's elite soldiers. Now he fixed toilets for aliens who saw him as little more than a trained monkey. In the crowded nutrition sector, Sam found an empty seat next to Linda Cruz, who worked in communications. "How's it going?" she asked quietly, making sure no aliens were within earshot. "Same as always," he replied, keeping his voice low. "Fixed their systems, got talked. Down to repeat." Linda leaned closer. "I heard something in the comm center today. The Vorax are on the move again, attacking settlements near the Epsilon Eridani colony." Sam stiffened. The Epsilon colony was one of the few places where humans had been allowed to establish a presence outside the solar system, working primarily as miners. "The hegemony's response?" he asked. Linda shook her head. "That's just it. There isn't one. They're holding back the defense fleet. There are 10,000 people on that colony," Sam hissed. "Expendable people, according to High Command, just humans after all." Sam's hand tightened around his spoon until his knuckles turned white. For 5 years, humanity had endured second-class status in the hegemony. They were forbidden from military service, political representation, or even owning certain technologies. The once proud nations of Earth now existed only as administrative zones for alien governors. "I'm getting assigned to a supply run to Proxima Centauri next week," Sam said after a long silence. "The route passes near Epsilon." Linda's eyes widened. "You can't be thinking, I know people in the quartermaster's office who owe me favors, and I've been collecting parts, things that might be useful. If you're caught diverting supplies or going off course, they'll execute you." Sam looked up at the massive view screen on the wall, which showed Earth rotating slowly below them. Once it had been their home. Now it was just another possession of the hegemony. "Maybe it's time someone did something," he said. 5 years is long enough to learn their weaknesses. Linda glanced nervously at a passing Dravari officer before whispering, "You received another transmission from Prometheus?" Sam nodded slightly. The Prometheus Initiative was a covert human resistance group, named after the Titan who stole fire from the gods to give to humans. For 3 years, Sam had been gathering intelligence on hegemony technology and tactics, sending encrypted data back to Earth through a network of human workers. "They've found something," he said. "Something about us, about humans. Dr. Alan Pierce has been studying our neural patterns under stress. He thinks there's more to us than the aliens know." "What does that mean?" Before Sam could answer, the station's alarms blared. A moment later, the nutrition sector filled with hegemony security forces. "Attention all personnel," announced a Krull officer, his massive form towering over the humans. "By order of High Command, all human workers are confined to quarters until further notice. The Epsilon Eridani colony has engaged in unauthorized military action against the Vorax. Any human found outside designated areas will be considered in rebellion." As the room erupted in confused murmurs, Sam and Linda exchanged glances. Something had happened at Epsilon, something the hegemony hadn't expected. "Looks like I won't need to divert that supply ship after all," Sam whispered. "The war just started without us." In his eyes, Linda saw something she hadn't seen in any human for 5 years. Hope. Lisa Carpenter stared at the red warning lights flashing across her control panel. As administrator of the human mining colony on Epsilon Eridani, she had dealt with equipment failures, minor rebellions, and resource shortages. But nothing had prepared her for this. "Status report," she called out to her team, forcing calm into her voice. "6 Vorax ships have entered orbit," replied Jack Nelson, her security chief. "They're deploying landing craft. We have maybe 20 minutes before they reach the surface." Lisa looked around the command center. 30 faces stared back at her, waiting for orders. The hegemony had given humans permission to mine this rocky planet, but with one strict rule: no weapons. The aliens believed humans were too primitive, too weak to handle their own defense. "Where is our hegemony protection?" Lisa asked. Julie Yang, the communications officer, shook her head. "I've sent emergency signals on all channels. The response says help is coming, but—" Her voice trailed off. "But they're delaying," Lisa finished. The truth hit her like a physical blow. The hegemony wasn't coming, not in time anyway. "They're watching," Jack said bitterly. "Betting we'll just surrender." Lisa thought of the 5,000 miners and their families spread across the colony. Simple people who had come here for a fresh start, away from Earth's overcrowded cities. They were her responsibility. "Well then," she said, straightening her back, "let's surprise them." Within minutes, Lisa had organized the colony's response. Mining equipment became weapons. Explosive charges meant for breaking rock were repurposed. Heavy excavators were turned into makeshift battle vehicles. Every colonist with military experience, and there were more than the hegemony knew about, was given a leadership role. When the first Vorax landing craft touched down near the main settlement, they expected to find terrified humans waiting to be captured. Instead, they walked into an ambush. The Vorax were predators with scaled skin and powerful bodies evolved for hunting. They carried advanced weapons and moved with natural stealth, but they had never faced humans fighting for survival. In the ID command center, Lisa watched through security feeds as Jack led the first defense. Miners in heavy equipment suits charged the Vorax forces. Drilling lasers, never designed as weapons but powerful enough to cut through stone, sliced through alien armor. "We forced them back to their landing zone," Jack reported over the comm system, his voice tight with controlled excitement. "But they're regrouping, and we lost 17 people." Lisa closed her eyes briefly, feeling each death. "Hold position. Don't pursue them." The pattern repeated across 3 landing sites. The humans took heavy losses but made the Vorax pay dearly for each step. By nightfall, the aliens had established only a small foothold on the planet's surface. In orbit, hegemony observers watched with growing concern. This was not how Class 3 non-combat species were supposed to behave. On the 3rd day of fighting, a small supply ship broke through the Vorax blockade. Lisa was shocked when Sam Rogers stepped off the vessel. She had met him once 2 years earlier when he had come through on a maintenance assignment. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Sam gestured to the cargo being unloaded behind him. "Bringing supplies. Some might accidentally be useful in your current situation." Lisa's eyes widened as she saw the crates. They contained hegemony weapons, medical supplies, and tactical equipment, all forbidden to humans. "How did you—" "I diverted from my assigned route," Sam said simply. "The Prometheus Initiative sends their regards." That night, Sam worked with Jack to train the colonists in using the stolen weapons. As a former Special Forces soldier, Sam knew more about combat than anyone else in the colony. He moved among the miners, adjusting grips, teaching tactics, his eyes constantly assessing. "The Vorax aren't as tough as they look," he told them. "They're overconfident, they think we're weak." "That's their mistake." A young miner raised his hand. "But what about when the main Vorax fleet arrives? We can't hold out forever." Sam's face hardened. "We don't need to. We just need to last long enough to prove a point." The colonists fought with growing skill and determination. Under Sam and Jack's guidance, they set traps, used the terrain to their advantage, and struck where the Vorax least expected. When the aliens brought in heavier weapons, the humans went underground, using the mining tunnels to move unseen and attack from below. On the 7th day, a Vorax commander was captured when his ship crashed after an ambush. The alien was brought before Lisa in the command center, its 4 arms bound securely. "Why do you continue this pointless resistance?" the Vorax asked, its translator converting the hissing sounds to human speech. "You will all die. It is inevitable." Lisa leaned forward. "Maybe. But we'll take as many of you with us as we can." The Vorax made a sound that might have been laughter. "The hegemony told us humans were weak, fearful creatures, easily controlled." "They were wrong," Lisa said simply. On the 10th day, the hegemony finally arrived. 3 massive warships entered the system, easily driving off the remaining Vorax vessels. But what they found on the surface shocked them. High Commander Ulthrak of the Krull stomped through the colony's main square, his huge form towering over the humans who watched him warily. The Krull were the hegemony's primary warriors, massive, rhinoceros-like beings with thick hide and immense strength. Ulthrak had fought in a dozen campaigns across the galaxy. He had never worried about humans before. "Explain this," he demanded, pointing at the captured Vorax ships and weapons the colonists had salvaged. Lisa stepped forward. "We defended ourselves, as was our right." "Impossible," Ulthrak rumbled. "Your kind has no combat classification. You are workers, nothing more." Sam moved to stand beside Lisa. "Clearly, your classification system needs updating." Ulthrak stared at them, his small eyes narrowing. Then he turned to his guards. "Secure all evidence of this battle. No recordings. Leave this planet. The human defense capabilities are now classified information." After the hegemony forces left, taking the captured Vorax with them, Sam found Lisa in her office. "They're afraid," he said quietly. Lisa looked up from her computer. "Of us? That seems unlikely." "Not of what we are," Sam clarified. "Of what we might become." He pulled out a small device and placed it on her desk. "This contains a secure channel to Earth. The Prometheus Initiative would like your colony to join our network." "What exactly is this initiative planning?" Lisa asked. Sam looked out the window at the colonists rebuilding their damaged homes. They moved with new confidence, standing straighter than before. "Dr. Alan Pierce has been studying human neural patterns. He's found something strange, something the aliens missed. Under extreme stress, certain humans show brain activity that doesn't match any known pattern." "What does that mean?" "It means," Sam said, his eyes reflecting the light of the setting sun, "that we might be more than even we thought. The Vorax attack was just the beginning. The hegemony is facing threats from all sides now. Sooner or later, they'll need every fighting force they can get, even the ones they think are too weak to matter." Lisa picked up the communication device. "Tell Dr. Pierce we're in, and tell him we have data he might find interesting. Medical scans of our fighters before and after combat. Some of them did things during the battle that should have been physically impossible." Sam smiled. "That's exactly what he's looking for. The awakening has begun." Dr. Alan Pierce hadn't slept in 3 days. His lab on Earth, hidden beneath an old hospital in what was once called Colorado, buzzed with activity as his team analyzed the latest neural scans from Epsilon Eridani. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a glowing image of a human brain. "This is Jack Nelson during normal conditions." The scan showed typical human brain activity, areas of yellow and green indicating standard thought patterns. "And this," he continued, pulling up a second image, "is the same man during the height of battle." The second scan was dramatically different. The entire brain glowed with fierce red and white light, especially in areas that normally showed little activity. Most striking was a small region near the brainstem that blazed like a miniature sun. "What are we looking at?" asked Nora Adams, his assistant. "I believe," Alan said quietly, "we're seeing the awakening of something very old, something that's been dormant in humans for thousands of years." Before he could explain further, the lab door burst open. Sam Rogers entered, looking exhausted after his secret journey from Epsilon Eridani. "The hegemony is mobilizing," Sam said without preamble. "The Vorax have launched a full-scale invasion of 3 hegemony systems. It's war." Alan nodded grimly. "Then we don't have much time." For the past 6 months, the Prometheus Initiative had been gathering data from human colonies and workers throughout hegemony space. What had started as a resistance movement was evolving into something more focused, more scientific. "What's the status of the research?" Sam asked. Alan led him to a secure room where dozens of brain scans lined the walls. "We've identified a consistent pattern. Under extreme stress, life or death situations, some humans show a dramatic neural shift. Their brains access regions that are normally dormant. When this happens, they demonstrate capabilities far beyond normal human limits." "What kind of capabilities?" "Enhanced strength, speed, and reflexes, improved tactical thinking, pain suppression, in some cases almost precognitive reaction times." Alan paused. "We're calling it the War Mind Protocol." Sam frowned. "Why haven't we seen this before?" "Modern life eliminated the need," Alan explained. For thousands of years, humans lived in constant danger from predators and hostile tribes. Our ancestors who survived were those who could access this state. But as civilization developed and life became safer, the ability went dormant. And now it's waking up again, Sam said softly. Exactly. The hegemony's arrival, the subjugation of Earth, the Vorax attacks. They're creating the perfect conditions to reactivate this dormant system. Their discussion was interrupted by an alarm. Nora rushed in with a tablet. Hegemony announcement. They're conscripting humans for the war effort. The news spread rapidly across Earth. After years of being classified as a non-combat species, humans were suddenly being assigned to hegemony warships as support staff. Not as fighters, but as engineers, medics, and maintenance workers. 2 weeks later, Sam found himself on the hegemony battlecruiser Dominance, serving as part of the engineering crew. The massive vessel carried forces from 3 alien species, with humans making up about 10% of the crew. All in non-combat roles, of course. Keep your heads down and do your jobs, the Krull overseer told the human contingent. You are here because we need additional support personnel, not warriors. Stay out of the way when fighting begins. Sam shared knowing glances with other Prometheus members scattered throughout the human crew. They had been placed strategically, ready to gather information and, if possible, subtly influence events. The Dominance was part of a fleet of 30 ships responding to a Vorax incursion in the Procyon system. For 3 days, they pursued the enemy through the system's asteroid belt, trading occasional fire but unable to force a decisive engagement. On the 4th day, disaster struck. The Vorax fleet suddenly turned and attacked, revealing it was twice as large as initial scans had indicated. Half their ships had been hiding in the dense asteroid field, using technology that fooled hegemony sensors. Sam was in engineering when the first barrage hit. The ship rocked violently, throwing crew members against walls and consoles. Emergency alarms blared as atmosphere vented from multiple decks. All hands, battle stations, boarding craft detected. The announcement echoed through the surviving communication system. Sam looked around at the chaos in engineering. 3 of the 4 Krull supervisors were dead, crushed by falling equipment. The surviving aliens were injured or in shock. Only the humans, smaller and more agile, had avoided the worst of the damage. You, the surviving Krull officer pointed at Sam, get to auxiliary control and stabilize the power grid. Sam nodded and sprinted through the damaged corridors. As he ran, he passed scenes of destruction. The Vorax attack had been precisely targeted, hitting the bridge and weapon control centers first. Most of the command crew was dead or cut off. When Sam reached auxiliary control, he found it empty. The officers assigned there had either been killed or fled. The ship was dying, its systems failing one by one. Without hesitation, Sam sat at the main console and began working to restore power. His fingers flew over the alien controls, drawing on months of covert study and information gathered by the Prometheus network. Engineering to auxiliary control, we've lost containment on Deck 7, a voice called over the comm system. Rerouting. Power now, Sam replied, his mind racing through solutions. As he worked, the ship shuddered again. Proximity alarms indicated Vorax boarding craft had attached to the hull. Soon, enemy forces would be inside. Sam felt a strange pressure building in his head. His heart raced, but his thoughts became unusually clear. Time seemed to slow down around him. In engineering, other humans experienced similar changes. Kate Butler, a mechanical specialist, found herself lifting a support beam that should have been impossible for her to move, freeing trapped crew members. Down in medical, Joe Freeman treated wounded aliens with perfect precision, despite having minimal training. When the first Vorax breached auxiliary control, Sam was waiting. The alien raised its weapon, but Sam moved with impossible speed. Later, he couldn't fully explain what happened. He simply reacted, his body flowing like water around the enemy's attacks. Within moments, 3 Vorax lay unconscious, and Sam was at the weapons console. His mind processed tactical information faster than the ship's computers, identifying patterns and weaknesses in the enemy formation. On the ship's medical deck, the monitoring systems recorded extraordinary data from the human crew members. There, Neural patterns had shifted dramatically, matching the scans from Epsilon Eridani. Their bodies were producing chemicals never before seen in such combinations. Sam coordinated with other humans who had taken control of key systems. Together, they stabilized the ship, sealed breaches, and organized the surviving alien crew members into an effective defense force. By the time hegemony reinforcements arrived, the Dominants had not only survived, but had destroyed 2 Vorax vessels. The ship's internal recordings showed humans performing feats that should have been physically impossible. High Admiral Zexthar, watching these recordings in the Hegemony High Command Center, turned to his advisors. "What are we seeing here, Adam?" Science officer replied hesitantly. "It appears the humans have evolved somehow. Or perhaps they were hiding these capabilities all along." The Admiral's outer mandibles clicked in agitation. "How is this possible? They were classified as physically inferior." "Perhaps," suggested an El-Shiri commander, "we measured the wrong attributes." Back on the Dominance, Sam stood in the makeshift bridge they had established, surrounded by a mixed crew of aliens and humans working together for the first time as equals. The war mind state had faded, leaving him exhausted but aware that something fundamental had changed. "The war has just begun," he thought, looking at the stars visible through the view screen. "And so has humanity's awakening." President Diane Mitchell stood in the Oval Office, staring at the holographic display showing the current state of the war. Red markers indicating Vorax forces pushed deep into hegemony space, while blue hegemony defenses fell back on multiple fronts. "They're losing," she said quietly. General Paul Harris nodded grimly. "The Vorax have been planning this for decades. They studied hegemony tactics and developed perfect counters. The hegemony is too set in their ways to adapt quickly." The door opened and Dr. Alan Pierce entered, followed by Sam Rogers. Both men looked exhausted but determined. "Madam President," Alan said, "we have something to show you." He activated a small projector, displaying footage from various battles throughout hegemony space. Each clip showed humans performing extraordinary feats, lifting impossible weights, moving with blinding speed, calculating complex battle maneuvers in seconds. "The war mind activation is spreading," Alan explained. "What started at Epsilon Eridani has become widespread. Every human in combat situations is showing signs of the awakening." "The aliens are noticing," Sam added. "They're confused. Some are frightened. The Hegemony Council is holding emergency meetings about the human situation." President Mitchell studied the footage. "Can all humans do this?" "Not all," Alan admitted. "About 30% show the full activation pattern. Another 40% show partial activation. The rest show minimal changes. But most importantly," Sam said, "we're learning to control it. The first activations were purely instinctive, triggered by life-threatening danger. Now people are learning to access the state voluntarily." The president turned to face the window looking out at Washington, D.C. 5 years under hegemony rule had changed the city. Alien architecture stood alongside human buildings, and hegemony patrol ships regularly flew overhead. "This changes everything," she said finally. "It's time to negotiate from a position of strength." 3 days later, President Mitchell addressed the Hegemony Council via holographic projection. The 9 most powerful aliens in the galaxy looked down at her from their massive chairs. "High Council," she began, "humanity proposes a new arrangement. We will join your war effort against the Vorax as full combatants, not merely support personnel." High Admiral Zexthar's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Your species lacks the physical and mental attributes for frontline combat roles. Recent events suggest otherwise," Mitchell replied calmly. "The battle records from the Dominants and 6 other vessels where humans took command during crisis situations speak for themselves." "Isolated incidents," dismissed a Krull counselor. "Then, perhaps a demonstration would be helpful," Mitchell suggested. At her signal, the doors to the council chamber opened. Sam Rogers entered, accompanied by 20 humans. They wore simple uniforms with Earth insignia, carrying no weapons out of respect for council protocol. High Commander Ulthrak, who had witnessed the aftermath at Epsilon Eridani, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. These volunteers have all demonstrated the ability we call the war mind, Mitchell explained. They are prepared to undergo any test the Council wishes to design. What followed was unprecedented. For 6 hours, the humans demonstrated abilities that defied the hegemony's understanding of their species. They completed physical challenges designed for Krull warriors. They solved tactical problems faster than the hegemony's battle computers. They demonstrated reaction times that matched the most agile Elshiri. This is concerning, Zexathar said finally. How long have you hidden these abilities? We weren't hiding them, Sam explained, stepping forward. We didn't know about them, ourselves. They were dormant, awakened only by the extreme conditions of war. The council chambers emptied except for the highest officials. After hours of debate, they reached a decision. Humanity would be reclassified as a combat-capable species. Humans would be allowed to serve on hegemony warships and even command their own vessels. In exchange, Earth promised full participation in the war effort. What the Council didn't reveal was their secret contingency plan. Once the Vorax threat was contained, they would implement a special virus designed to target human neural pathways and prevent the war mind activation. Humans were useful now, but too dangerous to allow unrestricted development of their abilities. 1 month later, Sam stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance, the first human-commanded vessel in the Hegemony fleet. The ship was smaller than most Hegemony warships, but faster and more adaptable, reflecting the human approach to warfare. All systems ready, Captain, reported Linda Cruz, now his first officer. Sam nodded, still adjusting to his new rank and responsibilities. His crew was mostly human, with a few alien specialists in key positions. Set course for Proxima Centauri, he ordered. The Vorax are massing there for another push. As the ship entered faster-than-light travel, Sam reviewed the latest reports from Earth. Dr. Pierce's research had advanced rapidly. Training centers had been established where humans learned to control the war mind state, accessing it without the trigger of mortal danger. Not everyone could master it. Some humans showed minimal response to the training. Others could enter the state but couldn't maintain it for long. A few, like Sam, seemed to have a natural affinity for it. The scientific community had started drawing connections to ancient human myths. Warriors blessed by gods who performed impossible feats in battle. The berserkers of Norse legend, the Spartans of ancient Greece, the samurai of Japan. Throughout human history, stories told of fighters who transcended normal human limitations. What if these weren't just stories? What if the war mind had always been part of humanity, appearing in times of greatest need, then fading back into dormancy during peaceful eras? The Defiance arrived at Proxima Centauri 3 days later, joining a mixed fleet of hegemony vessels. The Vorax force opposing them was massive, over 100 ships arranged in their characteristic hunting formation. All hands, battle stations, Sam ordered. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, many already showing the enhanced focus of the war mind state. The comm system crackled. This is High Commander Vorth of the hegemony vessel Invincible. All ships, form up according to Standard Protocol Delta. Sam exchanged glances with Linda. Protocol Delta was a conventional approach that the Vorax had consistently countered effectively. High Commander, Sam said, opening a channel. The Defiance requests permission to try an alternative strategy. Denied, came the immediate response. Follow protocol. Sam muted the channel and turned to his tactical officer. Send our battle plan to the other human crewed ships, quietly. As the main hegemony fleet moved into the predictable Delta formation, the 5 human-commanded vessels subtly shifted position. When the Vorax attacked, hitting the formation exactly where it was weakest, the human ships were already moving to counter. What followed was a dance of ships among the stars. The human vessels moved in patterns the Vorax had never encountered, attacking from unexpected angles, supporting each other with perfect coordination. On each bridge, humans in the war mind state made calculations and tactical decisions at speeds that astonished their alien allies. They anticipated enemy movements before they happened and countered strategies the Vorax had used successfully for years. They're adapting, Linda reported, watching the Vorax ships attempt to counter the human tactics. So are we, Sam replied, his eyes glowing with the subtle luminescence that often accompanied deep war mind activation. By the end of the battle, the Vorax had been forced to retreat, the first major defeat they had suffered since the war began. The hegemony ships, initially dismissive of the human tactics, now looked at their new allies with a mixture of respect and unease. High Commander Vorth's massive form appeared on the Defiance's view screen. Captain Rogers, your methods were unconventional, but effective. The Council will be informed of your contribution. Sam nodded respectfully, but he could see the calculation in the alien's eyes. Today, they were valuable allies. Tomorrow, when the Vorax threat receded, they might become something else entirely. The awakening is just beginning, he thought as the fleet regrouped, and the hegemony knows it. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The war had changed dramatically. Human-commanded ships led successful operations throughout hegemony space, pushing the Vorax back to their own territory. The once unstoppable enemy now fought defensively, their strategies countered by the unpredictable human approach to warfare. On the hegemony capital world of Thar Prime, High Admiral Zexthar stared at the war map with his 4 eyes. The situation was both better and worse than he had expected. The Vorax were retreating, yes, but humanity's influence grew with every victory. The final attack on the Vorax homeworld is prepared, reported a Krull general. The human battle group has taken position at the jump point. And the other matter? Zexthar asked quietly. The Elshiri science minister stepped forward. The neural suppression virus is ready. Once the Vorax are defeated, we can deploy it through the environmental systems of all human ships and settlements. It will block the neural pathways that enable their warmind abilities. Good, the Admiral said. We cannot allow them to remain unchecked. They were barely civilized when we found them. Now they command our most advanced weapons. None of them noticed the small maintenance drone hovering near the ceiling. Its visual sensors recorded everything, transmitting the data through encrypted channels to a waiting human ship. In Earth orbit, Dr. Alan Pierce received the transmission in his new laboratory aboard the space station Freedom. The facility had been built with hegemony technology but was staffed entirely by humans, part of the new rights granted to Earth as a reward for their war contribution. They're planning to betray us, he told President Mitchell, who watched the recording with a grim expression. Just as we suspected. Do we have a countermeasure? She asked. Alan nodded. We've been preparing for this possibility. The virus they've created targets specific neural pathways. Our medical team has developed a vaccine that will protect those pathways without the hegemony detecting it. How soon can it be distributed? We've already begun. Every human serving on hegemony vessels or stations has received it, disguised as a routine immune booster. President Mitchell stared out the viewport at Earth below. So it comes to this. After everything we've done, they still see us as a threat to control, rather than allies to respect. What are your orders? Alan asked. She turned back to him, her face resolute. Proceed with Operation Awakening. It's time the hegemony understood exactly who they're dealing with. 3 days later, Sam Rogers led the combined fleet against the Vorax homeworld. 40 ships, half of them human-commanded, emerged from faster-than-light travel and formed up for the final battle. The Vorax defense fleet waited, their ships, arranged in a last desperate formation to protect their planet. All ships, this is Captain Rogers, Sam transmitted to the fleet. Proceed with Attack Plan Theta. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, their crews operating in synchronized war mind states. The alien-commanded vessels followed their lead, creating a battle formation never before seen in hegemony warfare. The Vorax fought fiercely but were overwhelmed by the combined force. Within hours, their fleet was in ruins and their planetary defenses disabled. The enemy is defeated, reported Linda Cruz, still serving as Sam's first officer. Their leadership is requesting terms of surrender. Sam nodded. Transmit the standard. Hegemony surrender protocols. He paused, then added, and get me a secure channel to Earth." While the hegemony officials began the formal surrender process, Sam received a simple message from President Mitchell. "The trap is set. Return to Earth. Immediately." When the victory celebration began on Thar Prime, no human representatives attended. The entire human fleet, along with all human personnel serving on hegemony vessels, had been quietly recalled to Earth. The Hegemony Council found this curious but not alarming. They proceeded with their plan. "Deploy the neural suppression virus," ordered High Admiral Zexthar. "All human settlements, ships, and facilities." The virus was released through supposedly routine air filtration updates. Hegemony officials waited for reports of humans losing their enhanced abilities, becoming once again the weak, manageable species they had first encountered. But the reports never came. Instead, a massive fleet appeared in orbit around Thar Prime. 100 ships, all human crewed, all showing weapon systems active. They had been hidden throughout hegemony space, waiting for this moment. On the bridge of his new flagship, the ESS Prometheus, General Sam Rogers opened a channel to the Hegemony Council. "This is General Rogers of Earth. We are aware of your attempt to suppress our abilities. It failed. We are also aware of your plans to restrict human development once the Vorax were defeated." The council chamber erupted in chaos. High Admiral Zexthar pushed forward to the communication panel. "This is outrageous. After everything the hegemony has done for your species—" "Done for us?" Sam interrupted. "You classified us as barely sentient. You made us servants. You used us when convenient and planned to cripple us when we were no longer needed. Your ships cannot stand against the full hegemony fleet," Zexthar warned. "Perhaps not," Sam acknowledged. "But we don't need to fight your entire fleet, just its leadership." The implication was clear. The human fleet wasn't there to conquer the hegemony, only to ensure the safety of Earth and human interests. "What do you want?" asked another council member, a more pragmatic Elshiri. "A new arrangement," came a new voice. President Mitchell's image appeared beside Sam's. "The galactic hegemony will become the galactic conquered. All member species will have equal representation and rights. No more classifications of lesser or greater species." "Impossible," roared a Krull counselor. "The hegemony has stood for 10,000 years, and it has grown stagnant," Mitchell replied calmly. "That's why the Vorax nearly defeated you. You couldn't adapt. Humanity brought new approaches, new tactics. Imagine what other species might contribute if given the chance to develop freely." For 3 tense days, the human fleet held position, while negotiations continued. Some hegemony military leaders wanted to attack, but cooler heads prevailed. The recent war had depleted their forces, and the human ships possessed technology the hegemony hadn't known they had developed. Finally, a compromise was reached. The hegemony would reform, gradually extending greater rights to all member species. Earth would gain a seat on the council, with Sam Rogers appointed as humanity's first representative. 1 month later, Sam stood in the newly renamed Conquered Council chamber. Representatives from all 9 species sat in equal chairs around a circular table, replacing the old arrangement where lesser species stood before the elevated council. "The old gods of war have served their purpose," Sam said to Linda as they prepared for the first session. "Now we need to become more than warriors." "Do you think they'll ever fully trust us?" she asked. Sam looked around at the alien representatives. Some regarded the humans with respect, others with lingering suspicion. "Trust takes time, but they know now that we're not what they thought we were." In his laboratory on Earth, Dr. Alan Pierce continued studying the war mind phenomenon. The latest research showed something unexpected. The ability was evolving, becoming more refined. The crude strength and speed enhancements were developing into more subtle forms. Enhanced creativity, improved empathy, deeper intuition. "It was never just about fighting," he told his team. "That was just the beginning. The war gods woke us up, but they're showing us how to be more than warriors." As Earth took its place among the stars as equals, humanity continued to surprise their alien neighbors. The species they had once dismissed as weak had proven to be not just powerful fighters, but adaptable, innovative, and deeply resilient. The awakening had only just begun.